March 15th, 44 BC. The most powerful man in Rome walks into the Senate. Within minutes, he'll be stabbed 20 times by men he called friends. This is the true story of history's most famous betrayal, and it's far more calculated than you think. His name was Gaius Julius Caesar. Born July 100 BC into a patrician family, Caesar rose through Roman politics with a combination of military genius, political cunning, and unprecedented ambition. By 44 BC, he'd conquered Gaul, crossed the Rubicon, defeated Pompey in civil war, and become dictator of Rome. He had more power than any Roman in history, and that's exactly why they killed him. But here's what most people don't know. The conspiracy against Caesar wasn't led by his enemies. It was orchestrated by men he'd personally promoted, pardoned, and trusted. Men who owed him everything. The ringleader was Marcus Junius Brutus. Yes, the Brutus. Born around 85 BC, Brutus was a senator, a scholar, and reportedly the illegitimate son of Caesar himself, though historians debate this. What's not debated? Caesar loved him like a son. During the Civil War, Brutus fought against Caesar, siding with Pompey. When Pompey lost, Caesar could have executed Brutus for treason. Instead, he pardoned him, promoted him to praetor, and promised him the governorship of Macedonia. Caesar even joked that Brutus would succeed him as Rome's leader. Brutus repaid this trust by becoming the chief architect of his murder. Then there was Gaius Cassius Longinus, another Civil War opponent Caesar pardoned. Cassius fought for Pompey at the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BC. After Pompey's defeat, Caesar forgave him and made him a praetor, but Cassius harbored deep resentment. Ancient historian Plutarch records that Cassius once said Caesar's ambitions threatened the Republic. The truth: Cassius wanted power for himself. He was bitter, ambitious, and convinced that killing Caesar was the only path to personal glory. Decimus Junius Brutus, Albinus, not to be confused with Marcus Brutus, was perhaps Caesar's closest friend. Caesar trusted Decimus so completely that he named him in his will as a secondary heir. Decimus had served as Caesar's naval commander during the Gallic Wars, fighting by his side for nearly a decade. Caesar gave him command of Gaul, and on the morning of March 15th, it was Decimus who personally escorted Caesar to his death. By early 44 BC, Caesar's power had reached its peak. The Senate had declared him dictator perpetuo, dictator for life. He was planning a massive military campaign against Parthia, Rome's eastern rival. He was reforming the calendar, redistributing land, and centralizing power in ways that threatened the traditional aristocracy. To the senators, Caesar wasn't just a dictator. He was a king in all but name. And Rome had violently expelled its last king 5 centuries earlier. The conspiracy began in late February, just weeks before the assassination. Cassius approached Brutus first. According to Plutarch's Life of Brutus, Cassius appealed to Brutus's sense of republican duty, reminding him that his ancestor Lucius Junius Brutus had overthrown Rome's last king in 509 BC. He told Brutus that Romans were leaving messages on his statues. "You are asleep, Brutus," and "You are not truly Brutus." The psychological pressure worked. Brutus agreed to lead the conspiracy. They recruited carefully. According to ancient sources, the final conspiracy included over 60 senators. Each man had personal reasons. Some genuinely feared tyranny. Others were jealous of Caesar's power. Many had fought against Caesar and resented his clemency. They saw his mercy as humiliation, not generosity. The conspirators called themselves the Liberatores, the Liberators. They convinced themselves they were saving the Republic. In reality, they were about to plunge Rome into 14 years of civil war. They chose the Ides of March, March 15th, because the Senate was meeting that day at the Theatre of Pompey. Caesar's bodyguard of Spanish soldiers wasn't allowed inside. The conspirators would have Caesar isolated, surrounded, and vulnerable. The plan was simple: lure him to the Senate, surround him, and stab him to death. No trial, no exile, just murder, disguised as justice. The night before, Caesar attended a dinner party at the house of Marcus Lepidus. According to the ancient historian Suetonius, the conversation turned to the best kind of death. Caesar said, a sudden one. Hours later, he would get his wish. That same night, his wife Calpurnia had nightmares. She dreamed she was holding Caesar's bloodied corpse. She begged him not to go to the Senate. Caesar initially agreed to stay home. Then Decimus arrived, his closest friend, the man he'd trusted for a decade. the man named in his will. Decimus mocked Caesar for listening to a woman's dreams. He told him the Senate was planning to offer him the crown of king outside Italy. If Caesar didn't show, he'd look weak, superstitious, afraid. Caesar's pride took over. He agreed to go. Decimus personally escorted him to the Theatre of Pompey. As Caesar entered, a senator named Tullius Timber approached with a petition to recall his exiled brother. Caesar refused. Timber grabbed Caesar's toga and pulled it down. The signal. Publius Servilius Casca struck first, stabbing Caesar in the neck. Caesar spun, grabbed Casca's arm, and stabbed him with his stylus, a writing instrument. Then the others closed in. 23 stab wounds. That's what the physician Antistius recorded during Caesar's autopsy, the first recorded autopsy in history. The conspirators struck him in the chest, the back, the groin, the face. Caesar fought back initially, but when he saw Brutus approaching with a dagger, the ancient sources say he stopped resisting. According to Suetonius, Caesar's last words weren't, "Et tu, Brute?" That's Shakespeare. The Greek historian Dio Cassius records that Caesar said nothing, simply pulling his toga over his head to die with dignity. Some sources claim he said in Greek, "Kai su? Teknon? You too, child?" Either way, Brutus stabbed him. Caesar collapsed at the base of a statue of Pompey, the rival he'd defeated in civil war. The irony wasn't lost on the Romans. The conspirators ran through the streets shouting liberty. They expected cheers. Instead, they got silence. The Roman people loved Caesar. He'd given them land, jobs, entertainment, and military glory. The Senate had killed their hero. The liberators had miscalculated catastrophically. Within hours, Mark Antony seized control of Caesar's will and gave a funeral speech so powerful it turned Rome against the assassins. Within weeks, Brutus and Cassius fled Italy. Within 2 years, they were dead, defeated at the Battle of Philippi by Caesar's heir Octavian, who would become Caesar Augustus, Rome's first official emperor. The republic the conspirators claimed to be saving? It died with Caesar. The betrayal that was supposed to restore freedom instead gave birth to the Roman Empire. Brutus fell on his sword in 42 BC. Cassius ordered his slave to kill him. Decimus was hunted down and executed. Of the 60 conspirators, nearly all died violently within 3 years. History remembers them not as liberators, but as traitors. Caesar became a god, literally. The Senate declared him Divus Julius, the divine Julius. His adopted son ruled Rome for 40 years. The calendar still bears his name, July. 1 betrayal, 23 stab wounds, the end of a republic, and the birth of an empire. Julius Caesar was killed by his closest friends, and Rome was never the same.